So let's come to stand at the top of your mat. And for a moment, close your eyes here as you start to organize the body. Your big toes can touch heels slightly apart. And start to tune into the central strength lines that we're going to be focusing on throughout this sequence. These lines start at the soles of the feet, just in front of the heel, running up through the center of the legs, joining together at the pelvis, and then connecting from the pelvic floor all the way out through the crown of the head. And then they come back down into the chest and split out through the center of the arms and connect to a point just in front of the palm of your hand. And with these lines in your mind's eye, just start to stack the body, grounding through the feet, lengthening through the crown of the head, and start to energize your practice by moving into your Ujjayi breath. And with this deep rhythmic breath consistent, let's inhale our hands in front of heart center and ground into our intention. It's a place to drop our mind into and stay focused throughout our practice, and to give a certain quality to our breath. And let's gently release your arms by your side, opening your eyes up. And with your next inhale, let's bend the knees, sitting back into Utkatasana. Arms come up, palms touch. And then exhale, straighten the legs as you fold forward into Uttanasana. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jump or step back into high plank. With shoulders over your wrists, let's lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhaling into upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Moving into Virabhadrasana A, let's step our right foot forward. Let's seal the outer edge of your back foot, dropping that heel down and rise up with your arms. Taking one breath here. And then exhaling your hands back down. Step your right foot back to meet your left and lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Switching sides, inhale, let's step your left foot forward. Right heel drops down onto the mat as you inhale up with the arms, keeping your front knees stacked over your toes. Good, and then exhale your arms back down to the mat, stepping back into high plank and lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And to start out with our first downward facing dog, let's really find the weight in our hands and see if you can even it between the inside edge of your hand and the outside edge of your hand. Finding that central point that we talked about with our strength lines. And then allow that strength line to follow up all the way up through the center of the arms. Organizing your shoulders onto your back as you lengthen through the spine and start to curl your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And let's bring our gaze forward. Jump or step to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees back into Utkatasana. Inhale, come up with the arms. And then straighten your legs and arms come by your side to Samastitihi. Good, again. Bending your knees, inhale your arms up. And exhale, fold forward into Uttanasana. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jump or step back into high plank. We'll lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, step your right foot forward, Virabhadrasana A. Back heel seals down onto the mat. Rise up with your arms. And then exhale your hands back down. Step back into high plank and lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Switching sides, your left foot steps forward. Drop your right heel, rise up with the arms, one breath here. And then exhale your hands back down. Moving through your Vinyasa, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Now really connecting to your breath. Your Ujjayi breath is in and out through the nose. Slight constriction to the back of your throat. Eventually, this breath is audible and consistent and rhythmic through your entire practice, from start to finish. Let's bring our eyes forward, jumper step to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Bending your knees back into Utkatasana. Inhale, come up with the arms. And then straighten your legs and arms come by your sides. Namaste. Good, last one. Bending your knees, sitting back into Utkatasana, arms come up. And exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jumper step back into high plank. Lower your knees if you need to, lowering Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, step your right foot forward, Virabhadrasana A. Back heel, heels down onto the mat. Coming up with the arms. And then release from the posture, hands down to the mat. Step back into high plank. Lower Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And switching sides, your left foot comes forward. Bending the knee, sealing the back foot. Come up with the arms, one breath. And exhale your arms back down. Stepping back into high plank and lower Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And moving a little bit deeper into the posture, feeling that central channel line connecting from the pelvic floor through the crown of your head. Really organizing the spine here and adding that curl of the tailbone up towards the ceiling for a little more length and extension. And if the spine is laying in the right place and is connecting all properly, then the breath will flow freely through this area of the body. And let's bring our gaze forward. Jumper step to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold. Bending the knees, sitting back into Utkatasana. Inhale, let's come up with the arms. And then straighten your legs, arms by your side into Samastitihi. Good. Stand at the top of your mat, big toes touching, heels slightly apart. Inhale, let's come up with the arms. So palms facing forward, fingertips reaching straight up towards the ceiling as you lengthen here. And once again, we really want to organize the body around these strength lines, starting with your feet in that central point and following it all the way up to the crown of the head. Lastly, feeling the energy and breath reach out through your fingertips, finding that full extension in your posture. Good. And then staying where you are, but let's just place our palms up towards the ceiling. So finding that flexion in through your wrists as much as possible, and then really reach up, like you're pushing up against the ceiling. Same way of organizing the body here, and just deepen the breath. And then one last time, moving your fingertips back up towards the ceiling. Maybe finding a little more extension as you ground solid through the feet. Pulling up on the kneecaps, lots of strength in through the legs. And with your next exhale, let's fold forward. Hands can come onto your shins, your feet, or onto either side of your feet. Grounding down strongly. Eventually working your torso closer to your legs as we pull strongly with our hands. And if this is deep enough, you can stay here, or you're going to slide your hands underneath your feet. Moving a little bit deeper, slight bend into the knees is fine, especially if it really helps you organize the spine and lengthen through the crown of the head. And as the body starts to slowly open up in this posture, you can work your legs back to straight. Very good. Keeping your hands where they are. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale your hands onto your hips, pausing here. And then inhale, let's roll all the way up. Resting your arms by your side into Samastitihi. Good, let's take a vinyasa. Inhale, let's come up with the arms, gaze comes up nice and strong. And exhale, fold forward into Uttanasana. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jump or step back into high plank. We'll lower, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Good, and right away, bringing your gaze forward, let's jump or step to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rising all the way up, nice and strong. And then exhale your arms by your side into Samastitihi. Let's take a step back with our right foot. We're going to square our toes and our hips to the back of the room now, here, and fold forward over that right leg. So legs are nice and straight, and you really want to pull that right hip back, left hip forward in order to find the balance in the pelvis. And your hands can be reaching onto either side of that right foot, or you can start to walk them back towards your left foot, flipping your hands so that your palms are grounding solid down into the mat. And if you need a little height here, feel free to use a couple blocks. Good. Your gaze can be past your right toes, or you can bring it towards the belly button, especially if this helps you find more length out through the crown of the head. And then with a little more intensity and dedication to your breath, start to drop a little bit deeper into the posture. And then let's move into Trickin Asana on this same side. So right hand can come onto your right shin, top of your foot, or to the inside edge of your foot as you start to open up the torso. And you can play with the placements of your feet here. Your left foot may need to squeeze back a little bit further. And then start to open up, left arm up towards the ceiling. If it's okay with the neck, gaze comes up towards your left fingertips. And if you can, it's this constant push-pull. So you're reaching through the crown of your head and you're extending up through your left fingertips, and all of a sudden there's more space through your entire torso. And then with this space, you can start to move into it and deepen your breath. Now we're starting to explore new territory in the body. We'll move into Barbarita Trickin Asana. So let's drop both hands onto either side of your right foot. Step your left foot in and square a little more through the hips. And then let's take our left hand onto the outside edge of your right foot or onto a block. Right hand can stay on your sacrum or reach up towards the ceiling. And before you come into the full expression of your twist, make sure you're finding as much length and expression through the spine, reaching through the crown of the head. And then you can start to really open up through the chest. Very good. The strength comes and starts through the feet and then up through the legs. And then let's really find our feet as we rise all the way up with the torso, unwinding from the posture. And then we're going to switch sides. So let's pivot on your toes, squaring your feet and your hips to the front of the room now. And then let's fold forward over that left leg. So same posture here. You're walking your hands out in front of you or keeping them on either side of that left foot. Or you can walk them back, flipping your palms, grounding your palms strongly down into the mat and pulling yourself down towards that left leg. Good. The expression and understanding of the posture is going to come through that dedication to your breath. That constant, consistent rhythm that we're looking for starts to really unfold your practice and deepens your understanding of the body. And let's start to open the posture up into Utkatasana Trickinasana. So left hand can come onto your left shin or to the inside edge of that left foot and reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. Starting to expand the posture by really extending and opening up through the feet to start. So widening your toes, Make sure your toes are not clenching the mat, so you can lift them up for a moment as you really ground down strongly. And then follow that strength all the way up through the legs, pulling up on the pelvic floor, and then extend that extension all the way up through the crown of the head. And then let's move into Barbarita Trickin Asana. So start by dropping both hands onto either side of your left foot. Step your right foot in, working to square your hips now. And then let's bring our right hand onto the outside edge of that left foot. Left arm reaches up towards the ceiling or can stay on your sacrum. Maybe twisting a little bit deeper with every exhale, as long as you're keeping the length and the honor in that spine. And winding from the posture, inhale, let's rise all the way up and come to stand at the top of your mat into Namaste. Taking a vinyasa, inhale, come up with the arms, lengthen here, and exhale, fold forward, Utkatasana. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jump or step back into high plank. And lower, Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Bringing your gaze forward, jump or step to the top of your mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, let's rise all the way up. And then arms by your side into Namaste. Once again, let's step back with that right foot. We're moving to Virabhadrasana D. So right toes towards the back of the room. Same with your back toes. And let's lift your back heel up, stacking it over your toes. Sinking deeply into that front knee so it's stacked directly over your ankle. And ensure that there's enough movement in the pelvis that you can pull your right hip back, left hip forward. And at the same time that you're making that movement into the pelvis, pull up on the pelvic floor. Draw your belly button towards your spine, and now reach through the fingertips as much as possible. So there's a slight lift out of the pelvis here without losing that dedication and depth in that right knee. Good. We'll move into Barbarita Paschimottanasana. So you can drop onto your back knee if you need to get into the posture this way. Hands are going to come in front of your chest into prayer and cross your left elbow onto your right knee. And you can feel free to stay here, or eventually we're going to straighten that back leg once again. And for some of you, you can also drop your back heel. If this pulls you way out of alignment with the pelvis, then I want you to lift that back heel up again. And just work slowly and honor the body as we start to unwind it properly. There has to be enough strength here, so your legs are nice and strong. The lift is coming off of that right hip crease by really grounding your hands strongly together. Good, and let's release. If your back heel isn't dropped yet, you can drop it as you come all the way up. Pivoting on the toes, left toes towards the front of the room, back toes also pointing towards the front as we sink into Virabhadrasana D. Your right heel is lifted, stacked over your toes, and that front knee is directly over your ankle. Again, really finding that lift and length here as you extend and reach through the crown of the head and through your fingertips. Beautiful. Barbarita Paschimottanasana. You can drop onto your back knee. Hands come in front of your chest into prayer. And cross your right elbow onto your left knee. Taking the full expression here as you did on the other side. And just check back in with the breath. Just maybe noticing if you've lost the consistent rhythm that you started with. And just pull your awareness back there, guiding it back into that consistency, that dedication. And we can release, dropping that back heel down. Let's rise all the way up and come to stand at the top of your mat into Samastitihi, where we'll take another vinyasa. Inhale, come up with your arms, lengthen here, and exhale, fold forward. Inhale, look up with a flat spine. Exhale, jump or step back into high plank. Again, lower your knees if you need to. Push the mat away from you as you really flare through the upper back and lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And let's jump or step your feet to your hands. Inhale, look up, lengthen, and exhale, fold. And then we're going to start to walk our right fingertips out in front of us, coming into our standing splits. So first, let's ground down strongly through your right foot and extend your left toes up towards the ceiling. Your fingertips are grounding strongly, or your palms can be also grounding strongly here as you find the extension through the spine. Make sure that you're not losing the balance here by lifting that left leg too high up. So maybe lower it to really drop it down towards the mat. And if you can maintain that place of your hips, then you can start to lift it back up. But there is no rush. Good. And then you're going to start to walk your hands towards your feet and lower your left leg slightly. And we're going to work our hands behind our back. So a few options here. You can catch on to opposite elbow, or we're moving into reverse prayer. And you really want to be reaching the crown of your head forward and reaching your left toes back behind you. And then this is where you'll find that balance point. Really find that right foot. Beautiful. Let's release. Good. Inhale, look up, lengthen. Exhale, fold. And then let's switch sides. Really ground through your left foot. Extend your right leg up, reaching your fingertips out in front of you to start. To find the fullest expression, extension of the posture. And then once you can maintain that length, you can start to play with the posture a little bit more. Maybe lifting your leg a little bit higher. And with that full breath, let's start to walk our fingertips back. Lower your top leg slightly, and you can start to move your hands behind your back, either catching onto opposite elbow or coming into reverse prayer. And you may wobble and fall out of the posture a little bit, but you just come back into it. Give it another go. Good. And then we'll release, folding over your legs. Inhale, look up, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Let's do one more. Inhale, look up, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Let's jump or step back into high plank. Lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And we're going to come forward into high plank, coming to Paschimottanasana. So let's place our right hand into the middle of our mat and start to roll onto the outer edge of your right foot. Few options here. Left arm is up towards the ceiling. If this is too intense, step your left leg in front, placing your foot on the mat. Okay, or you can stack your feet like we're doing here in the video. Or if you're adding on, you can grab onto your knee or the outer edge of your foot for the full expression. And you're creating an arch through the side of your body as you really ground down and reach up through your torso. Good, and then let's release, pushing back into downward facing dog. And then we're going to take that same left leg and step it to the outer edge of your left foot. Now for some of us, we're just going to bring both hands to the inner edge of this foot and maybe come down onto your elbows. You can also drop your back knee and just really work here, opening up this hip. Okay, or you can straighten that back leg and again just work here. Couple more breaths, breathing nice and deep into that hip. And then we'll push back into downward facing dog, taking a full breath here. Full exhale. And then once again, we're stepping that left foot forward, coming into our splits, Hanumanasana. So use blocks here underneath that front left thigh. Give you a little support. And then if you can, we're going to start to fold forward over that left leg. Just remembering that consistent rhythmic breath is starting to unwind the tissue of the body, making space and clearing out all the unnecessary holds in the body, all the unnecessary habits or patterns that are really holding us back from feeling that freedom that we desire, from feeling that space that we're looking for. Good. And let's release from the posture, stepping back into downward facing dog. And then we'll come forward into side plank on the opposite side. So left hand into the middle of our mat, rolling onto the outer edge of your left foot. Take the same variation here as you did on the other side. And create that consistent, deep breath. If the posture is intense, don't let your mind race and tell you how intense it is. Just soften the forehead, and just keep your focus on the breath. And your energy will start to spread out through the entire body, and it'll start to lessen the intensity. Good, and stepping back into downward facing dog. And then we'll step your right foot to the outer edge of your right hand, dropping your back knee to set up as we come down onto our elbows, if possible, and then possibly straightening that back leg. Sending your breath into that right hip. Just starting to understand where our breath is needed most in the body and keeping our focus there. Good, and let's release back into downward facing dog. And then we'll come into splits on the right. So step your right foot in between your hands, dropping your back knee, and start to inch that right foot forward. Coming into the variation that's best for you. Again, use your blocks if you need them. And then fold forward over that right leg. It's that same action over and over again. So we're working to create the balance in the pelvis by pulling your right hip back, left hip forward. Find a lift of the pelvic floor and draw your belly button towards your spine. Now that whole area of the body is supported and working to create the space to open it up. It's that constant balance between strength and softness. Beautiful. And let's release, stepping back into high plank. We'll lower, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And we'll come into Bakasana or crow. So walking your feet forward, hands planted strongly on the mat, spreading your fingers nice and wide. Start to send your hips up towards the ceiling. Few options here. You can work your knees into your armpits and start to bring the weight forward as you bend through the arms. Gaze comes forward. Or some of you are going to probably work your knees kind of to the outside edges of your arms. So play with the placement of your knees and just really trust it as you start to bring your weight forward. Keep your gaze up and then breathe here. Eventually your arms may even straighten as you really find length and strength through the pelvic floor. Good. And then jump or step back into high plank. Lower Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Good, and then bring your gaze forward, jump all the way through onto your seat. Let's send our right heel back behind us for Parigasana variation. You're going to bring your left hand to the inside edge of your left foot. Right arm reaches up and over. Really expanding through the sides of the body here, both the right and the left. Dropping your shoulders away from your ears, and then start to spin open the chest. It's the perfect time to drop back into our intention and just really deepen and settle into this idea. Why we're here and what keeps drawing us back into our practice. Good, unwinding but keeping your legs where they are and fold forward straight over that left leg. So we are constantly making these little shifts and these little changes to create that opening of the body. We're looking to create that space that once existed in the body, but because of patterns that are no longer serving us, that space has slowly started to disappear. So we go back to the drawing board, we start to unwind, and we move back into a different way of holding the body. Let's unwind, swinging your right foot back in front of you, and we're going to take a forward seated fold, Paschimottanasana. Legs are straight. And as much as we just want to fold forward and relax here over our legs, we can still use a lot of the body and the strength here. So legs are nice and strong, heels grounding down strongly. And I really want you to work with the pelvic floor here. So pulling up on the pelvic floor, working with our bandhas, draw your belly button towards your spine. And now you can reach and lengthen through the spine, reaching through the crown of the head, maybe folding a little bit deeper. And using your breath just to guide your awareness and really drop your mind into the practice. And inhale, let's roll up through the spine and let's switch sides. Let's bring our left heel back behind us. Good. Right hand reaches to the right edge of your right foot. Left arm up and over. And you can really start to settle into the subtle sensations in the body. So moving beyond that really big, deep sensation and start to notice what is happening on an energetic level. Keep cueing the mind to drop back into the breath, dropping back into the experience of the body. And inhaling up with the torso, let's fold forward straight over that front leg. Just noticing the quality of the breath and the quality of the space that your practice is starting to move into. Inhale, stand up nice and tall. Swing that back leg to the front now. And one last time, let's fold forward over your legs. Paschimottanasana. Maybe the posture is moving a little bit deeper. And just notice what you notice. We first start to train the body, the most physical. And we move more deeper and past all the layers into the more subtle. We are training ourselves how to deepen our meditation through this practice. And sit up nice and tall. Let's come to lay flat onto our backs. Let's bring our arms above head, palms facing up towards the ceiling, and the top of your hands grounding strongly down onto the mat. And let's bring our legs up towards the ceiling. So coming at 90 degrees. And we're going to start to move through strengthening the abs here and strengthening our core. So let's take a big inhale here. And exhale, lower your legs halfway down. Inhale. Exhale, hover the legs just above the ground. Inhale. And exhale, release them all the way down. Good. Moving the opposite direction. Take an inhale here. Full exhale. Inhale, lift your legs just above the ground. Full exhale. Inhale, lift them up halfway. Full exhale. Inhale, lift them up to 90 degrees. Full exhale. One more inhale here. Exhale, drop your legs halfway. Inhale. Exhale, hover them around just above the ground. Inhale. And exhale, drop them all the way down. And then let's move into our back bend. So let's start at stage 2 here, or step 2. Knees are pointing up towards the ceiling, feet flat onto the mat. Arms are going to come by your side. And inhale, let's lift our pelvis up and bring your hands onto your lower back, walking your elbows more underneath you. So you can stay here, or if you're adding on step 3, bring your hands beside your ears, fingertips pointing towards your heels. And then inhale, let's push onto the crown of the head, taking a couple breaths here. And then possibly you're working with your full wheel, lifting the head up, straightening through the arms. Grounding down, perfect time to really tune into these central strength lines. Pelvic floor to the crown of the head. Soles of the feet connecting through the center of the legs. And then center of the arms connecting down into your palms. Let's take one more breath here. And then exhale, tuck your chin, lower all the way down. Bringing your knees into your chest. Rolling on the spine a little bit back and forth. And then we're going to roll ourselves all the way back up onto our seat. Coming forward onto our hands and knees and moving into Shirshasana, our headstand. Feel free to use your prep posture here. If you're not comfortable coming up into your full headstand, I'll walk you through that now. If you are comfortable with headstand, you can move straight into it now. So coming down onto your forearms, interlacing your fingers, palms stay nice and wide, and you're placing the crown of the head onto the mat, supporting the back of your head with your hands. You're going to tuck your toes and straighten your legs like downward facing dog, and start to walk your feet forward. Ideally, your hips are coming and stacking directly over your shoulders. You can play with lifting one leg here, taking a few breaths, and lifting the other. Becoming really light and strong here. Eventually your toes just lift up off the mat and you'll feel extremely steady and supported here in your headstand. And then we'll slowly start to release, controlling as you lower your legs down onto the mat, and we'll come into child's posture. Resting your arms by your side, forehead presses strongly down into the mat. And the breath may have slowed down a little bit here, but I still want that consistent rhythm. Still focusing on our Ujjayi breath. And we'll start to roll up through the spine, sending your feet off to the side. We're going to come into Navasana, or half boat posture. So knees can stay bent here like we're doing in the video. Arms by your side. Let's bring our palms together. And then if possible, lifting your toes up and possibly straightening your legs. Good. Taking a couple more breaths here, really hugging everything into the center point. Really relying on the central strength line for 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Let's release. Slowly lowering, coming to lay flat onto our back, resting into Shavasana. The head softening your shoulders, reaching through your hips. Palms can face up if you need more energy for the rest of your day, or palms face down if you're ready for bed or to relax after this practice. Just letting the body soften here, letting the nervous system recalibrate and shift back into that central point. Finding that perfect balance between strength and healing. Let's start to bring full deep breaths back into the body. Just taking a moment to notice the state that you've worked yourself into through this practice so far. And holding that space, you can bring your knees in towards your chest. Eventually rolling onto the right side of the body before making your way up to a comfortable seated position at the top of your mat. And we will do a few breathing exercises, pranayama, and a short meditation. So in a comfortable seated position, your hands can rest onto your knees, thumb and first finger touch. Nice tall spine here, shoulders relaxing down your back. And we are going to start with Samavriti. So equal balanced breath, ensuring that your inhales match your exhales in length, in pressure, and integrity. So maybe counting how long your inhales last, at least a count of 4 or 5, and then matching your exhales to that same count. Finding this smooth, consistent rhythm, and just allowing one breath to flow into the next. This breath requires full, deep concentration. So if the mind starts to wander, just pull it back in. Analyzing every specific aspect of this breath. Let's take 3 more. And then with your next exhale, let's soften, moving into our natural breath. And allow that natural breath to guide you straight into your meditation. And keeping your spine nice and tall, let's start to drape our shoulders down our back. Finding stillness in the body and connecting to this expansion and contraction rhythm that comes with our inhales and our exhales. You can stay here as long as you want in your meditation, grounding down into this space. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.